Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to be joined today by Kathy Ellis, who is the president of the Business Lab, which is a B2B brand and marketing strategy agency. How are you doing today, Kathy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on with me today.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me. I love what you do.
Thank you very much for that. You know, today you and I are going to be talking about why don't they buy? There's always a reason. Right. This is such a relevant topic in this area we live in with online selling and our website, social media, and meeting with potential buyers. So you have over 22 years of experience in the brand and marketing world. Can you tell us how you got started in this line of work?
Sure. Yeah. Well, of course, it has been a moment. I guess after I got through school, my first real job was with HPC, and I became their regional marketing director. And we had moved from Albuquerque to Las Vegas, and things were going great. And then they sold the company, right? So I either had to, resign and take the package, or move to Atlanta and work for the new president. Now, I knew the new president, and I'd known him for a while, and I knew that was not going to work. So, of course, took the package and we moved to Houston, which is where my mom and my sister and her family were. And it's kind of funny because, I took a lot of temp jobs, right? So I didn't know anybody or anything in Houston, and a few sales jobs. And then I took a full-time job as a salesperson for a printing company up there. And then I hadn't been there very long, and I just sort of watched them absolutely lose their best customer. I mean, destroy the relationship. And we're talking about like a cash cow, right? Recurring revenue. I mean, the holy grail of relationships, and they didn't care. They just absolutely did not care. And I said, well, enough is enough of that, right? Now, of course, I didn't know how to run my own business, but I certainly knew how to take care of a client. And so my husband and I, we said, well, let's try it. We can do it, right? So we started the Business Lab in 1997, right? So that has been a while. We sort of laugh that, in pig years, we're kind of footballs now, right? So anyway, it's been a great ride. We've been profitable every year. Yay. And we have worked with, CEOs and owners and decision makers from every industry, from corrosion to sugar. And what's really cool about that is that we get to connect dots, right? So I could see something over here that works really well and, see if it's going to work over there. So that's what we do all day, every day. Work with a bunch of entrepreneurs who just want to do cool stuff.
Right. Absolutely. I'm lucky to do about 25 years in sales and marketing now, and I love it, But you do have to try different things and see what works and where it works, and not everything works everywhere.
No.
So, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that executives are facing within this arena right now?
Well, several, right? But one thing I see, and it's kind of a different challenge. Maybe, that really that like 75% or maybe even more right now of B2B buyers or influencers, they're under the age of 45, right? And of course, age itself isn't really the issue. It's just that these people grew up with technology and internet and Googles and iPhones and this massive sea of resources, right? And so they absolutely know how and where to find information. And this age group also grew up with, Enron and Lehman Brothers and that whole too big to fail thing, right? So they're sort of this distrust of corporations and marketing rhetoric. Now, what's kind of interesting about that is that the research will tell you what the results of that is, right? And so it's something like 60 to 70% of the entire buying process is complete before, a seller knows there's a sale to be had. Right.
Right.
And it's also going to tell you that 70% of those buyers out there, they just really do not see salespeople as a resource when solving a business problem, right? So that's kind of a problem, right? You've got this weird dynamic happening where these buyers are out there, they know how to get the information. They don't really want to talk to any salespeople. And you've got these companies who have to go sell stuff, right? So they're in this conflict. They're in this paradox where, they're kind of going, well, in order to increase revenue, I must sell, right? But in order to increase revenue, I must not sell, right? So that's a problem.
Yeah.
And of course, anytime you see a paradox like that, that's good news in some ways, because that's exactly where you need to look, right? And so that's, kind of what I see happening there, is that these companies just need to reorient themselves and understand that today things are bought, they are not sold, and do that reorientation, process, which to me kind of includes three things, which is, you got to know what to change, right? You have to know what to change to, you have to know, who you want to be, and then you have to know how to cause that change. And of course, in this particular case, it all starts with the buyer.
Absolutely. And I've lived through that as a buyer myself. The way things have changed since the 1990s, I'm dating myself, but since then, things have changed dramatically in how I buy things. Yep. And what I do. And I go online and do a lot of research before I ever have what I would call a sales conversation with somebody. And so, yes, it has changed, and I've lived it, and before and after. So it definitely has changed. So what do you think are the top 2 or 3 biggest benefits of getting this right in sales and marketing?
Well, the thing is, these companies have to understand that it isn't like you have to go out and spend thousands and billions of dollars and get way too much research on customer experience kind of stuff, right? It's really kind of as simple as interviewing a buyer, right? And we're not talking about thousands, we're talking about 4, 5, 6 at the most. And certainly you don't want to interview people who bought from you, right? We want to know what we don't know. So you want to talk to buyers who didn't buy from you. Now, what the beauty of that is that if you do it correctly, you can address those 3 areas where you know what to change to, and how to cause that change. But, you become visible, right? When you do it correctly, you become visible to these buyers. So you just got to think about it. If 60% of the entire buying process is complete before any of the contenders know there's a sale to be had, well, of course you want to be one of those options. But the only way that's going to happen is, if you're in the buying process, if you are in the buyer's mind, right? And so becoming visible is the first step, right? And then the another benefit that you see a lot is that you stop wasting a lot of time and money, right? And all that can go right to the bottom line, because a lot of times what happens is companies, when they don't know what to do, and this is true of all of us, right? Don't know what to do. We sort of come down with this awful case of the mores, right? We need more. We need to be on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. We need to be at that association, this association, here, there, and everywhere. We need to write articles and be this and be that and do all these things, right? It's just sort of this more. Mm-hmm. And, what tends to happen is, what does happen is 60 to 70% of all B2B content is completely unused. It is an absolute waste. So if you stop doing that, you get a whole lot of money, back in your pocket, right? You're just a lot smarter. And I think, the third thing is, of course, what we want, right? We want more sales, right? We want more sales. And, I saw something the other day that, 53% or so of the salespeople out there are not meeting or exceeding their quotas. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, that makes sense, right? Just after what we just talked about, right? Yeah. But, I really think that once they understand the process, once they understand the buyer, and then if companies can take that selling process and turning it into a buying process, well, of course, you get more opportunities like we already talked about, but really the magic is that you're going to say the right things. You're going to be saying the right things to earn that business. And that's right. That is exactly what you want to have happen.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's what I call value attraction and relationship building. Yep. Inbound. Yep. It is totally different than this world that I really came up in, which was call, email, go to every trade show. It's just different the way that it's structured anymore. So what kind of impacts have you seen and experienced working in this area?
Well, big, right? Because obviously, if you think about it, all those things we just talked about, if you become visible and you narrow down what you're going to say to people, and then you say the right thing, then they love you, and all that good stuff happens, right? But really, people who do these sort of buyer insights formula, you do the buyer insights, you create a plan, and of course, you must follow the plan, right? Mm-hmm. And if you do, you see things like 30 to 40% higher closing ratios, meaning faster time to revenue. And really your conversion rates, they just double. So it's really, really impactful.
Absolutely. And I've seen and heard and read about stories where people scaled by 10x in a year because they got it right, and they were attracting people and they were signing up, and so it can be hugely impactful. And it does come back to your brand and your market and your positioning. Definitely are absolutely critical in this. So I love what you're doing. I think it's extremely relevant. I'm really glad that you came on with me. Yeah. What are some of the best ways for people to connect with you?
Well, they can stop by my house. Oh, no. No. It'd be kind of nice, really, because I haven't seen anybody in a long, long time. But
yeah, in ways it would be nice.
I know. Well, of course, the website, which is thebusinesslab.com, and then my email, Kathy, Kathy, @thebusinesslab.com, or call me 281-610-8631. Love to hear from someone.
Absolutely.
Oh, and too, Andy, I don't know if you're inviting them to the marketing trust and doing some of those roundtables. I think that's a great way to connect as well.
Okay, yeah, tell us a little bit more about it.
About the marketing trust?
Yeah.
Well, that's how you and I met, right?
Oh, yes.
So there were these roundtables that we do, and we have this a marketing trust, which is this alliance of marketers that have different perspectives and all have a wealth of expertise. And then we reach out to CEOs and leaders, and we just like to understand what's working in their environments and share that with everybody. And then we have these deep dive workshops where we can go in further as to what what specifically a business like yours does or mine does or whoever.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's so many tentacles to marketing and so many different expertise levels and different things. Networking for me has been hugely important over the years. Yeah. There's no one person that can do it all. So you do need a good network, and I love what you're doing. Again, I really appreciate you coming on with me today.
Thank you. And say hi to your son when he gets home.
Yes, yep. I will do that.
All right.
And that'll do it for this edition. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening today, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. Appreciate you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.